All right, what do you say we get started? How's that sound? Good?
Yes.
I know, like I said, I know it's 6 o'clock, and I know everyone, especially now more than ever, we have a lot more going on um, than usual, than we normally do at work. And so I want to make sure that we get through this and use our time efficiently tonight, and basically leave enough time to answer everyone's questions. So first and foremost, I'd like to start off just by saying thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight. We'd like to thank the members of Q who have basically set up this virtual conference for Hayes and for everyone to take part in during these times. I think this is just a wonderful thing that they're doing. And of course, we're very grateful that we have the opportunity to do a virtual session as part of it. So definitely a big thank you to all the members of Q for having us and inviting us to do this. I'd also like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us tonight. Like I said, I know we have a lot going on, and we've actually normally, if this were a regular conference, these sessions would be during the day, and they're holding them at night. And so we know you guys are doing your work during the day, and then you're settling in to join these sessions at night. So we thank you for taking your time and joining us this evening. We are from Hayes Software Systems. My name is Tim Brown. I've been with the company for a little over 2.5 years now. I work in Southern California. I have two other colleagues in Southern California with me. I'm going to let them say hi and introduce themselves.
Hey, my name's Kristen Burrows. I've been with the company for, I guess, 4.5 years now. And and I am focused strongly on the northern part of California.
Yeah, and my name is Patrick Wynn. I've been with Hayes for almost a couple years now, and I help districts sort of in the central California region partner with Hayes. So it's good to see you guys.
Awesome. So we're here today. We're going to do a presentation that we really feel addresses some of the needs, concerns, issues, things that are going on right now in our world, and a very topical conversation for us to have, to talk about, really your district-wide take-home. A lot of us are experiencing urgency to get devices into staff and students' hands fairly quickly. And then once they get them home, what can they do then? How do they raise their hand? How are students, how are staff members raising their hand? I'm going to talk briefly before we dive into everything, a little bit about Hayes, where we come from, and how we're qualified to talk in this space. We always encourage open dialogue in all of our sessions that we do. And so if you can, feel free to interrupt with any questions or comments that you have. We do have the chat feature going as well, and when one of us is not speaking, the others will be monitoring the chat. So if a question gets submitted that way, we're great at interrupting each other. So we'll interrupt whoever when the opportunity presents itself to ask that question. So we'll try to get all of our questions in throughout the session. Again, like I said, we want to be conscious of your time. Our information will be available at the end of the session. So if there are any questions or comments that maybe you didn't ask, we definitely want you to reach out to us, and we'll answer those as best that we can. So as we, sorry, I have a little technical difficulty here. There we go. Like I said, what I want to talk about first is really who we are, Hayes Software, and why we feel that we're qualified to talk about your district's one-to-one and also your help desks as well. Hayes Software, we've been around for over 30 years now. We work with school districts. We were actually started by an education professional by the name of Gene Hayes. Mr. Hayes was a tenured principal, he was an assistant principal, he was an administrator, and basically he saw the need for more efficient inventory control in school districts. And so he founded the company with his son, Michael. We started as a textbook management company, helping school districts with a more efficient way to track and manage their textbooks and instructional materials. As we grew, about 9 or 10 years ago, and as assets started showing up in school districts, districts started asking us if they could track and manage their assets in our textbook management platform. What we realized pretty quickly was the answer was no. And the reason for that is that what you're trying to track and manage on the textbook side is, we feel, and what we heard from districts is really different than what you want to track with your assets. And so we developed a separate platform called TipWeb IT to track and manage your district's assets. And then one of the things that's also important to mention is that in the 30 years that we've been around, we have stayed in our lane the entire time. We only work with school districts. So our solutions are built around the needs and wants of school districts, of administrators. There may be some things that come up in our presentation tonight that are some great ideas that maybe aren't in the software. We'll take those and write them down. We put those into our product backlog. And then those things get pushed up and then eventually developed into a feature into our solution. And on that note, about 4 or 5 years ago, districts started asking us if we had a help desk. And it wasn't just if we had a help desk, it was, do we have one that integrates with our asset management solution? And so the light bulb went off and we got to work, and pretty quickly we developed our own help desk solution that integrates with TipWeb IT. So the two share information about the assets, creating more efficiencies around them. And so we launched that. It's grown a lot, and we continue to grow our solutions, like I said, based on the needs and wants of districts. We work with currently 35 of the largest 100 school districts in the country. We work with over 8,000 school districts. So we're growing continuously, and more importantly, we're growing in California at a pretty steady pace that we're excited about right now. What we're here to really talk about tonight is the life cycle of your assets, and really we're gearing that, and our talk today is going to be around like we talked, the circumstances of COVID-19 and that urgency that a lot of districts are seeing for a one-to-one, for take-home devices. So there have been several districts that we've been working with who have reached out recently for assistance to use our solution to get devices checked out and to know where they're going so that they continue to manage them. And then, like I said, once those devices are at home, how are we going to support those users? How are you as districts, how are you as administrators, technicians, how are you going to be able to support those users from their house, really? How are they going to be able to raise their hand efficiently to know exactly what the problems are? And then now that we've got those districts checked out, now that we've got a help desk in place, now how do we manage that inventory going forward? Once the dust settles, how are we going to continue to manage that inventory? And so we're excited to talk to you about this today. We're going to dive in, and like I said, please feel free to join in with questions and comments. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen to take it from there.
Oh, thanks, Tim. So real quick, too, I want to make sure we have obviously a handful of people on the call right now. One of them is going to be Bob Fistrom, who is the technology director for Mountain View Los Altos. He's been with Hayes as a customer in a previous district with Sequoia and now with Mountain View. So we've got him on here. Please feel free to, as you ask questions, whether you're going to speak and unmute or you want to type in the questions on the chat, either way. I wanted to make sure we had him close by to help maybe share some of his best practices and experiences with the system overall and answer any kind of questions in better detail. Bob, he would like to say hello.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Good evening, everybody. More than happy to answer any questions, and definitely a company and product I certainly believe in.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And then what's even cooler is we have Michael Carter from San Bernardino County Office of Ed. Looks like he joined Hayes last week, and yeah, he's going through the implementation now. So any kind of questions you guys might have along those lines, I'm sure he'll be happy to share his experience so far, even though it's been short, but it's an exciting adventure. If you want to say hello, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm super excited to have this happen for us finally. Unfortunate circumstances that it's coming in, but we still see great value, and the unfortunate circumstance allowed us to kind of fast track this onboarding. So super excited about that.
Cool. Yeah, so as you've seen right here on the screen, what we wanted to dive into is giving you some high-level views of TipWeb IT, and then we'll also talk a little around the Get Help side as well. What we wanted to focus on strongly, obviously with the circumstances, is the processes of issuing out devices to your staff and students. I know there's a lot of different districts with a lot of different processes right now, different timelines, different time frames. So what we want to really focus on here is providing you some views of what it would look like using TipWeb IT, and really making this as communicative as possible. So sharing best practices. I know everybody's going to have some things that they've experienced, so please feel free to jump in as we go through it. But what we're going to talk about from the one-to-one side is also how the integration piece of submitting tickets, that's going to be a key thing right now, obviously, with people having issues that aren't on campus to walk up and say they need help. So I want to provide you some options with the system of how it can all communicate back and forth. Also just kind of giving you an overall view of the systems, of the device's life cycle. So what you've got with this view you're seeing is the dashboard. So this dashboard is going to have high-level views of the district overall. It's going to show all campuses included, and then also provide a lot of quick accesses on the left-hand side. So maybe adding users, creating different permissions for each type of user, etc. And then also with our customer support. One thing I do want to point out, that's probably the most important piece of any software system, is going to be the customer support that you have moving forward. Customer support, you see that orange button down below. It's kind of hard to see from the screen, but what you do is you select that. It takes you to a user, basically a community page that provides you how-to videos, step-by-step processes. It'll go through all the recent updates in the system, and then also what's coming in the next one. But the key thing with the customer support is you have unlimited customer support. So anybody from the district level or campuses, does not matter. They have the ability to call in as long as they need to, as many times as they need to really alleviate anybody from being that one point of contact from the district side. So with the assigning devices, obviously the biggest key point when it comes to issuing out a device to a staff or student is going to have the integration process with either your SIS or your HR system, depending on how you have it set up. What you're seeing here as a screenshot is basically showing how the process would work. If you were to scan the student ID number, it would populate the student's name automatically, and it's pulling from the SIS system. So what it's going to show is devices currently assigned to that student. It's going to show any kind of fees and fines that are associated. So maybe you want to keep up with if they've broken a screen 3 times. So you're going to have all of that information right there on the screen. Now, keep in mind, from a staff side, it looks just like this. It's the same process. It's just going to be a staff member's information there. And then also having the ability to, depending on the scenario, having the ability to have a distribution receipt created. So as you're issuing up the device to a student, you scan the ID card, you scan the barcode label, and then basically it's assigned to them automatically. But what you can add as a added feature to it would be the EReceipt. So with the EReceipt, what you have is an electronic document. It's going to have the school district's logo in the top left corner. It'll list out all the do's and don'ts that you want to put in there. So it's really customized around your preferences. And then what it does is it lists out the devices assigned to that student or staff member, along with dollar values, which is a key thing. And then what we have as another added feature is the accessory piece. So as you're issuing out these devices with a power cord, maybe there's a case with it, you want to make sure that those are all still documented on that receipt, but they're not going to have barcode labels on them. So within the system, you have the ability to set up a default to where every time you scan this Dell Chromebook out and assign it to somebody, those 2 accessories are going along with it. So it lets them know that they can't keep that power cord at home when they bring you back the device at the end of the school year. So it's all documented on the paper. Once they sign with either a finger on a tablet or maybe it's a mouse pad, they click accept. You then have a couple different options with that receipt. One being that you could print it out on the spot, so it would depend on the processes in place, and hand it over to them. You have the ability to email that to the actual student, staff member, or parent. And then you also have the ability to have that attached to the asset within TipWeb IT. So you're always going to have a running electronic copy of who's had the device, and if they ever came back and said, I never got the Dell Chromebook. You would just simply go over to that device's tag number, pull it up, and show where they signed for it. So one of the key things with the EReceipt, though, once you check out the device, and I know there's a lot of different processes taking place now with the circumstances, but it's going to be the fees and fines. So just keep in mind within TipWeb, you're going to have the ability to keep up with those fees. So if they are, cracking a screen and requesting somebody to come and swap that out for them, et cetera, you actually can keep up with everything. So let's say that screen replacement's $50. Maybe they only pay $25 on the spot. It will keep up with what's always outstanding too. So every time that student ID is scanned, as we saw on that screen a couple slides back, it's going to list out anything that's outstanding as well. So you'll always keep a running history of what needs to still be paid.
Hey, Kristen?
Yeah.
Got a question from Sean Colt. He's asking, can you guys integrate with Aries financials? Example, issue a fine for a broken Chromebook and tie to both the asset system and the financial system.
It's a really great question, Sean. So what we have with Aries, so it's a little more of a special integration we have with them over other SISs. One key thing with Aries is we do tie into the parent portal, which is a really big thing. We've had it for a couple years now. So what that allows is a parent to log in and see what their child has assigned to them. We are in the process as the requests come in. So Sean, yours just got added to the list. As Tim mentioned before, our system is created from the ground up. So any ideas that we currently don't have as functionality within the system gets added to a backlog, and then it gets put in the next update as more and more people bring up that actual functionality. So fees and fines has really been a large with Aries Financials working on what that process would look like.
Great. So now as we transition, as Kristen just kind of covered everything from the checkout side, getting the devices, into the hands of the students and staff, getting the system set up quickly. Now, as we talked about, now the next question is once they're at home, now what? How do they let us know that they've had help? How do they let us know that they need help? How do they raise their hands to let you guys know that they're having issues or troubles? And that's really where our help desk comes into play. And as we talked about, the importance that it integrates with our asset management solution. I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, and he's going to talk a little bit about that now.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Okay, so yeah, along with, as Tim said, tracking the devices, who has it, where it's at, what goes hand in hand with that oftentimes is supporting these devices as well, right? So you've got more assets now being checked out to students for an extended period of time, obviously, off-site. So it's even more crucial to have a system in place to actually support these devices. So how does a staff or student actually reach out to get their issue resolved? Well, the more avenues, the better, right? The easier it is for them. They probably won't be able to grab you in the hallway anymore like they could a few weeks ago, but there's a few options, right? So they can send you an email. That's option number one that we have capable here in the system. Option number two is they can log into the staff or student portal, which we're looking at here. So in this case, we're looking at Stephanie, and because the help desk is actually linked and integrated into the inventory system, once she logs in, she can see which device is already checked out to her. So in this case, it's just the Dell Chromebook 11 or the iPad 3. And she would simply click onto the icon of the asset that she wants to submit a ticket on behalf of. But if it's neither of those, she can also click on the green create a ticket button there down towards the middle. So if you look towards the bottom, you can also see the details in terms of what tickets are currently open. So the end user doesn't have to bug the technician, right? They have status updates right there at the tip of their fingertips. And then furthermore, if you actually click on the drop down, you can see all the tickets as far as history goes. So all the prior tickets that have already been resolved, they're already been closed, right? So this is all from the end user's perspective, right? Now, moving on to the technician's point of view, we're going to give you a nice dashboard here to give you quick access into all the tickets that exist across the district, the tickets that are assigned just to you, the technician, as well as all the tickets that are unassigned, right? Just sort of hovering out there in the ether. So you can see right here, it's color coded by priority. Down there towards the bottom, you have the option to sort, whether it's by problem type, by priority, by status, just really depending on how you prefer to sort of tackle your day as a technician, right? Maybe it's the low-hanging fruit to start off the bat, or if you want to tackle the major projects and do that first. So you have the option there either way. Another thing I wanted to point out is that the way that the tickets actually get routed is up to the district as well, right? So you can route by school site, you can route by problem type, you can route by priority. And what that does is that removes that extra step of having to receive the ticket and then redistribute it, right? It automatically gets sent to a specific technician or maybe a service group. So that ends up saving you quite a bit of time. And one other thing to mention real quick as well, which is pretty helpful, is the knowledge base that we have, right? So you have basically articles and instructions that guide the end user to help them resolve tickets themselves, so it doesn't actually turn into a ticket, right, which saves time. Also pertaining to end user expectations, you also have the option to set up SLAs or service level agreements, right? So instructions and expectations on how soon a certain type of ticket should garner a response, as well as how long it should take to actually get resolved. And then sort of dictating the protocol if that action happens or maybe it doesn't happen, right? So with the shift in the learning environment, it's going to be helpful, obviously, to understand what effect this will have, right, on being able to respond to tickets in time, resolve them, determine what efficiencies exist, or maybe opportunities to improve, where all that sort of lies. And we can do that with reporting analytics, as you can see here, right? There's the drop down here has about a dozen, or half a dozen, but I think there's maybe 9 or 10 now, various reports from average open time, average resolution time, tickets resolved by technician, tickets by problem type, right? So you can really start to trend the data, pick up on patterns, right? And start to gain insight to data to help you actually make informed decisions, right? So the data actually comes in several different formats. Here we're looking at sort of a graphical representation, but you can also convert it into, say, a bar graph. You can even start with the raw data in an Excel doc if you want, if you are an Excel wizard like Bob is and you enjoy pivot tables and whatnot. But so yeah, the idea here is to give you your data and allow customization so you can use it the way you want to help you make data-driven decisions. So I'll pause here for a second. Any questions? If not, I'll turn it back over to Kristen to jump into the product catalog.
Yeah, and I can jump in on this one too. For Sean, which is asking about importing information from Follett. So the way the process works is we actually, there's 2 different ways of doing it. So one way is, which we highly recommend, is going through our data conversion process. So we actually have a specialist that works with you. The reason, I know you'd mentioned it from like a direct import. So it does typically pull from a CSV file. Reason being is you want to be able to clean up any information needed. So one most important piece would be the product name. So to do a direct import probably wouldn't be the best process when you're implementing a new inventory system. We want to make sure that we work with you to make sure that the product names are correct. Maybe the way you want to see them, maybe you don't want iPad spelled 20 different ways, or maybe you just want it simple as a Dell Chromebook, or you do want to add the model on the end, just depending on the district's preferences. But yes, we do work with you from that process to make sure that data conversion process goes through and makes everything up and running smoothly. You do have an option depending on the amount of assets. So if it's something that's maybe a small amount that you feel comfortable importing yourself, there is a process you can go through with like an import wizard. So there's 2 different ways of getting the information into the system. And as we talk about the data conversion, we've got the product catalog on the screen. So, and as I was mentioning, the product name. So with this product catalog and going through that data conversion process, just keep in mind too, we never want to skip over the whole implementation piece as a whole. So you're going to have a customer success manager that's dedicated to your account. I love to describe them as holding your hand through the process. So one key thing would be going through that data conversion process with you. Also going through any types of integrations, time frames and what you like to see happen first and so forth. And then also just being able to keep up with you. So moving forward, we don't just hope the system works out and we leave you alone. So we do like to set up either, bi-weekly calls, maybe once a month, depending on the preference. We want to make sure that you it's going to list out the campuses that have it. And then as you look over, it shows total inventory, what's in use and what's available. So perfect example, maybe there's some testing that's going on and you've got a certain device, you want to see how many you have. Maybe a district or a campus is holding 200 of them as an example sitting there. You can just simply move those over to a different site and let them get utilized instead of having to purchase devices on a rush order.
And Kristen, if you don't mind me adding to, and I apologize, it froze, so I didn't know if you said this and maybe I missed it, is one of the things that we're able to do right now, and to use San Bernardino example, is we know districts they're in need of getting a select amount of devices in right now that they want to get home. So what we're able to do is we're going to work to do that initial data import of those, certain number of devices. And then we'll worry about the rest of the catalog later. We'll worry about the rest of that import later. We understand right now that there's certain things that are a priority for you. Again, we want to be flexible. We want to work with you to make sure that you guys are getting what you need right away.
Absolutely. And so what we're trying to provide some detail on for you here is within TipWeb IT, with the detailed screen, what this is going to provide you is all of the information on every asset within the system. So as you see here, starting from the top left, you're going to have tag, serial, site, location. Keep in mind where it has that room number. If you are issuing out to a student or staff member, their name would be assigned there to the location. That integration with the SIS and the HR. And then other things such as like the status, and then keep in mind too with that status, if it is a ticket that has been issued to that device, it is updated on this screen as well to put it into repair status. And then once the ticket is completed and resolved, it then goes back into use. So all that's documented automatically for you from a breadcrumb trails idea. If you look to the top right columns and you have listed there, you're going to have 4 customized fields for each type of product. So as we have a laptop here, it's showing operating system, warranty date. You have 4 custom fields to use. If it was a projector, it'd be 4 different custom fields. Just giving you some more flexibility to create the system around what your district's preferences are. We also have the middle piece, which is pretty big. It's the funding information side. So it's going to list out all the general information. We did just recently add the state and federal split funding because that was a request we've had for quite a while now. And so that's now an option, but you have the funding source as a drop down. So just keep that in mind as, let's say there's certain people that have permissions to add more devices to the system. They have to select from the drop downs given unless they have permission to add new funding sources. We also have the field for model end of life, which has been a really huge request probably over the past 6 months too. Just giving you the ability from that Google update change where I think it's after 5 years, the device can't handle the updates. So now you have a way of keeping track of that for refreshes. So you're not just surprised at the end of a school year that you've got to purchase 3,000 more devices. You can actually run your forecasting ahead of time. And then that funding information down, the product information down at the bottom, what that is just giving you the general information on each type of product. And that's what we pull over into that EReceipt that we showed as an example with the dollar figures, etc. As you look at the top, you're going to have all your tabs. So I'm going to start from right to left. The attachments tab is where you have the ability to basically store any electronic document to this asset. So I know I mentioned as an example would be the EReceipt. So you just basically attach the EReceipt to the attachments, have that running document. So if somebody was to come back and say they never got that device, it could be an electronic copy of the PO if of interest. And it also could be, I've heard some students or districts using it for police reports. So if it's lost or stolen or whatever the case may be. The components tab, moving over to the left, is where we handle anything to do with charging carts. So I know it's always a fun project for anyone to deal with. With our components tab, what this is a parent-child relationship. So for example, if you have the cart as you're pictured here, an uploaded image that you would handle, you'd have the barcode label on the cart, and as you scan the barcode label, you would pull up that components tab. It will list out the 20 devices assigned to that cart. So if you are moving a charging cart from room to room quite often, it's really a quick, easy way to move it without having to scan it 25 times and just scan it one time. Now keep in mind all those devices that are assigned to that cart still have this detailed screen. They're just going to be assigned to that cart where it has location. And then the really big tab that we're excited about when Get Help got added was a ticket history tab. So just keep in mind, as you're in Get Help creating your tickets, it also keeps them on this side as well. So if I was to click on the ticket history tab, it will list out all of the tickets created on that asset. So it keeps a running history on both sides, but making it real easy to go back and forth with. And then the status history and audit history, they work the same exact way. Basically, audit history is going to list out all the audits that that device was part of. And then status histories, I just like to call it your breadcrumb. So it's going to list who, where, and when it was touched last and give you a running history going as far back as needed. Keep in mind that any asset that is added to the system can never be deleted. So if anybody is in there that's maybe not quite sure what they're doing, just keep in mind they can't go there and delete all of your data, but you do have the ability to put it in an archive status, which keeps it out of your current inventory, but gives you the ability to run reports 10 years from now if needed on any kind of like special funding like E-rates and Title I. So just kind of keep in mind that we have that kind of customized around the system. And then the biggest part that everybody pretty much asks us about is going to be reporting. So with our reporting piece within Tip of IT, you have the ability to create a customized report. So if you look here at this top part, it's showing you some basic filters. You can click on the advanced filters and actually narrow down to one specific field if needed. So really customizing around what your key reporting needs to be on. One of the great features within our reporting side is the ability to create the report. And then it's kind of hard to tell, but on that left-hand side, there's a couple little lists of different reports titled. You have the ability to save those reports. And then as you maybe need these reports every quarter, as an example, you can actually save it. So when you log back in to run that report 3 months from now, you just click on the title and you're not recreating it each time. It's done for you in seconds. And then one of the added features as well is going to be the email feature. So you have the ability to email that report to a specific email address on a specific date. And the biggest thing with our reporting is it's your data. So you have the ability to export this information out into an Excel document, CSV, do your manipulating if needed, maybe create your pie charts and graphs or whatever presentations you're putting together. But we really want to make it as easy and user-friendly as possible so you have the information at your fingertips.
So there's some comments from the audience around the staging of my background and my curtain choice. So I just want to much appreciate that. That was very nice. So you see what we really wanted to focus on today was, again, thinking back to that slide about the entire cycle history, life cycle history, especially in the environment that we're all in now, of beginning not so much of planning well 6, 7, 8, 9 months down the road, but there are districts right now out there that need to get devices out now. So that life cycle is beginning at that point. And then, so working with districts, working with a system, a solution that has the tools to do that, to where you feel strong and you feel good about where your devices and assets are going to be, so that once they're there, and they're in the home, now you also have solutions that can help you to know, not just to know, but to understand what's going on, how they're breaking, and then being able to keep everybody in the loop, your team members who also are probably, what we're hearing is, are also working remote as well. So being able to communicate, being able to email reports, being able to email your reports to your team, to your super. There was a great question that was asked earlier that is, by Sean Colt. Again, he had said, is this something that is I know it's Tip Web IT, but can other departments use this? Yes, absolutely. Whether they're small districts or large districts, what's great about our solution is that covered in your licensing is you have unlimited users, unlimited assets, unlimited departments, unlimited customer support reporting. So definitely we encourage more users. You have the ability to set up multiple departments in the solution as well. So great question there.
I didn't know if it'd be a good time, and Bob, I know you mentioned earlier you're really tired of talking today on Zoom. Just curious, and I appreciate you pointing out the mobile friendliness of Tip of IT and Get Help, so do keep that in mind. I know you had just a quick 2-sentence comment you sent to us yesterday in regards to your experience having to issue out mobile hotspots. Do you mind just chiming in for a minute?
Sure. For starters, I don't think there's anything wrong with Tim's curtains at all. They look fine to me. So
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate
I'm there for you, bro. No, I don't want to talk too much because this is just really a product that works if you put the time into it. And I can't talk enough about the support of the Hayes team. So my current district, we are just getting Tip Web IT off the ground, and we were getting ready to issue T-Mobile hotspots to families in need yesterday. And I had my weekly check-in with Alicia, who is my customer support specialist, and she brought in one of the technicians on the call. And I said, oh yeah, we're going to be handing out devices on Monday. And you know, we have 2 campuses, but we're doing it all on one campus. And the support specialist said, well, you know, I'm going to put all your kids into one campus, and that way you don't have to toggle between campuses when you're checking out. And I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't even have thought to even ask something like this, and it was brilliant. And we did a drive-through checkout process yesterday, and we were literally getting kids out of there in 20 seconds, families out of there in 20 seconds, just scanning their ID, scanning the back of the hotspot, and getting them on their way. We did not have them do a digital signature just because of COVID-19 and everything that's going on. But this system really works. And what I can say as a technology director, there's nothing worse than working blindly. What I mean by that is when you get into these positions and you're wondering, where are my assets? You know, what do we have out there? Where is it? How old is it? What kind of budget do I have? How am I going to create a budget? If you don't know what you have and when it's expiring, you can really be up a creek without a paddle. And I really think in my 7 years as a director of technology and 25 years in public education, this partnership that I've experienced with Hayes is the most meaningful and probably the most effective, minus what Google Apps for Education did to level the playing field for all students. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody on or offline and just let you know the 2 unique experiences I had in 2 different districts implementing Hayes. And my former district, we also implemented Get Help last spring, and it is really awesome. Every screenshot that Patrick showed, it really works, and it's easy to customize your help desk. The district I was in before used School Dude, which had a drop down of like 70, literally 70 different choices of a tech problem, and we just said, okay, what are our most common tech problems? And that's how we made our menu. And teachers really appreciate the ease of use, and the techs appreciate the ease of use to escalate a problem and to get the data, because as Patrick did talk about, I do like making Excel spreadsheets. So that's my 2 cents. More than 2 minutes, sorry.
Oh.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Bob.
No, that was great, Bob. Definitely really appreciate that. So we are, you know, we're like I said in the beginning, we are, you know, we work all over the country, you know, with school districts all over the country. But Patrick, Kristen, and I, we work in California, and we work together, helping all of the districts. We're growing, like I said, at a really good pace in the state. You can kind of get a glance at some of the districts up there on the screen that we're currently working with. And then in the last actually couple of weeks, these are some of the districts that have reached out and started implementation with Tip Web IT, and some of them with Get Help as well. Like I said, I know we had Michael Carter from San Bernardino on as well. You know, he was in a unique situation where, Michael, I hope you don't mind me saying this, or if you wanted to chime in as well, where we had been working with Michael and his team on the best time for implementation. But then again, because of the current situation with COVID-19, the district, San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, was in a position where they needed to move that timeline up. And Michael, I don't know if you want to maybe just briefly talk about what that's been like for you and your experience.
Sure, happy to. In fact, our relationship has started about a year ago, and I'm an IT guy. I'm a dumb IT guy, and I don't know much from asset management and things like that. But I know that the current system that we have was not friendly, and it didn't allow us to do the things that we needed to do. But I thought this was a system that we could bring in and use as a technology department and not have to worry about what our fixed assets, our purchasing, our warehouse group was doing. That was the nice thing about the product to me. It allowed me to get it in and be able to make it effective and tracking, both technology and having help desk software in there without having to go through all the political mess of retraining and getting everyone on board. Having said that, I will tell you that the Hayes Group has been really helpful in doing, I don't know how many different times we've had Hayes out to come talk to our different stakeholders to get some buy-in, and we've been able to show that return on investment that is possible. We've been winning over, and this was before we got the product in. We've been winning over those department groups and relationships that sometimes tend to be adversarial between different units in an organization. Everyone wants everyone to stay in their own lane. They've helped us smooth through those some of that process too. So just onboarding before we've ever done it, just showing that ROI with our groups was very helpful. Now, our current situation, I'm going to go way beyond 2 minutes here. Our current situation, we wanted to get this on board and inside our network as soon as possible, just because of what's going on. And I got to tell you that working with the team, Anna Maxon, and our current customer success, I forget the name, but Andressa, and I'll throw it out there, we probably don't have all of the things in place that we should have in terms of processes for some of these things. But Anna and Andressa have been so critical in helping us with what are our best practices, directions that we can go to help work out some of the holes that we have in the process. They've been real critical in helping out with that, and so flexible. GitHelp has some things in it that we requested before we became customers, things that we wanted to see in comparison to the current help desk software that we've had, and I just think that's fantastic that they're that on top of it, that some of the suggestions of people who aren't even customers yet, but good ideas, are being pulled into that product. So really happy to be part of the Hayes family, and I haven't got my shirt yet, so I just want you to know that all of that's coming without any type of
I don't have one either, man.
Well, thank you, Michael, for chiming in there. Appreciate it. And so that's going to conclude the session for us. Our information is up there on the screen. Those are all of our email addresses. I'll leave those up there in case anybody needs to take those down. Does anybody, while we're here, does anybody have any questions or comments about what they've seen? We'll open it up. You don't have to worry about the chat anymore. Feel free, since we've finished a little bit early. And so if anybody has any comments right now, feel free to chime in. Sean Colt, don't be shy. All right. Well, quick shout out to Jennifer. Saw Jennifer. Thank you for joining us as well. Like I said, those are our contact information. We are more than happy to really help out If it's just sharing best practices right now, please don't, please don't hesitate to reach out. Like I said, it's, all we do is work with school districts. It's all we've done for the last 30 years. And so if we can help, especially during these times in any way, shape, or form, we want to. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you again for setting this up for us. We hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and please stay safe and healthy out there. And hopefully we'll talk to you all really soon. Have a great night.
Everybody take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.